Hello? I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. I wish I had a girl who looked good. I would call.
G'day, ballers, and welcome to the Baller NRL SuperCoach podcast. My name's Jono, coach at Hungry for More, and in this episode we are going to be breaking down round 2 Team List Tuesday by position. It's a big, important week ahead of the price rises in round 3. This is the week where you've got some tough decisions to make. Do you trade them? Do you hold them? Do you need to buy them? And with me to go through all of those tough decisions are a couple of our best and brightest here at Baller. As always, introducing by rank, which leads us to our first guest today. He is one of the best strategic minds in all of NRL SuperCoach. He's a former third-place overall finisher. He had a big hot start, got himself in around rank 4,743 already this year. He's the coach of the Casabonators. Danny boy, how you going, mate?
I'm good, Jono. I'm good. What a pleasant SuperCoach start to the year. I think everyone's teams seem to have performed in some way, unless you pot it up with some captain options that we'll get to for our next guest. But very, very good start to the season and a very, very comfortable Team List Tuesday come out today.
Yeah, very comfortable. No surprise, Danny boy. You were saying it. I almost had to start knocking on wood because pre-pod in the green room, you were saying about you don't think you've ever seen such a calm, easy-going round 2 Team List Tuesday.
Yeah, look, I think the only one that was under a bit of an injury cloud was Harry Grant, and he's been named. Rumours around cramp, and it certainly looked like he did a bit of an ankle twist, but either way, it wasn't going to be something that kept him out for too long. So I'd say he's absolutely fine and raring to go. So, looking forward to it. Good start. But I couldn't be the top contributor. I think I'm actually down in 4th. So every one of the ball boys has got off to a big start.
Yeah, it's been a strong start, including your dad, the podfather. We spoke about it on the Sunday Snap. Absolutely flying. Well done, the podfather. Got to shout him out again while I can. Our second guest today is making his seasonal debut. He's a baller contributor who I was going to describe. I thought about introducing him as one of the calmest and most collected minds in all of NRL SuperCoach. But then he dropped a bombshell to me and Danny boy pre-pod about what he did with his captaincy this week. He is the coach of 2 Couchmans. Fenno, welcome to the pod for 2026, mate.
Pleasure to be here, boys. As you just touched on, I went outside my normal way of starting SuperCoach season and took a flyer on Reece Walsh on Friday night. I was, I had Turbo in my team all week leading up to the game. I was really keen on him, but I watched the Storm Eels game on Thursday night and saw the effect that the 6 again had on that game, and thought, geez, I'd love to have Reece Walsh if he takes a stranglehold against these Panthers. It wasn't to be, but he's got a great matchup and he's got a great draw. So yeah, look, it wasn't the best way to start, but onwards and upwards from here.
Fenno, are you going to double down and chuck the VC on Walshy this week? 100%.
Yeah, that's an easy thing. And my only NPR this week is the Cheese. So being in the Friday night game, I've got to get the VC out of the way early. So, 100% locked in as VC this week.
Love it. Well done. Well, Fenno, hopefully now that you've got, no rums in your system for this pod tonight, like you said there were when you made that decision on Friday night. So hopefully we're a little bit cooler and calmer and you can bring that good advice for our baller listeners.
Clear thinking.
All right. Well, fellas, as always, a reminder for the listeners, please, if you can get onto our socials, give us a follow. Search for Baller NRL on X, Facebook and Instagram, and search for Baller SuperCoach on YouTube and TikTok. The numbers continue to grow each and every week and after every pod. So thank you to all of those people who are supporting us with their likes, their comments. It does mean a lot. Another reminder as well about the Ballers Only Discord. This is done by going to baller.live/Discord. It's just a great place for game day. It's a great place to talk about your SuperCoach ideas. Fenno, how are you finding the Baller community in the Discord?
Love it, mate. I'm a little bit of a Discord veteran. I think I'm in about 3 or 4 of them. Made my way into the Baller one, and great community. Jumped in there on Thursday night to help out with a bit of the Q&A with some of our local ballers, which was really cool. So, love it. It's great platform and great to see so many people in there and so many people off to a good start as well.
Yeah, a lot of the ballers were flying in there, so that was awesome to see. Some big scores being posted in the What's My Score area of the Baller Discord, so that was awesome.
Which was my suggestion, by the way.
Great suggestion. Well done. That's cool, calm and collected. The Baller 10K League, always. I shouldn't have to plug this, but I am, because it's just crazy if you are listening to this podcast and you haven't joined, which we see the numbers every week. There are people listening to this pod right now who aren't in that Baller 10K league. Get yourself in there. Biggest prize for any free-to-join league, $7,500 for first place, $1,000 for second, and third through fifth get $500. Our current leader is Year of the Rabbit, coached by James, who had a massive 1,648. I do believe James is sitting second overall, so well done, James. Hopefully that can continue to fly. He does have a lot of Rabbitohs players, I believe, Year of the Rabbit, so we'll see how he goes with that round 4 bye. And I just got to give a shout-out. Second place in the Baller 10K league is one of the behind-the-scenes Baller Boffins, Matt, who's sitting in second. That's not Matt Ricks, who you hear on this podcast. This is one of the behind-the-scenes boys, sitting in second, ineligible for prize money, but great to see him go up there, listen to all that baller advice. And the Podfather, Danny Boy, we mentioned him at the top of the pod, sitting in ninth, the fast starter. Do you know if the Podfather's got any big pod moves coming our way this week?
I don't think he needs to make any. He's absolutely
Too all set up.
He's nailed the setup in the first round. I saw his pod, Simi Sasangi, got named again. Little bit of doubt around that, though, with Matt Tomoko named at 17. So hopefully for the Podfather, he holds that position. That also might have implications for Noah Martin as well, but I'm sure we'll get onto that.
Oh, we'll absolutely unpack it. Danny Boy, how are you finding the Baller Match Centre over there in London?
Yeah, absolutely love it. I mean, it's so quick. I've actually got the Watch NRL app, so I'm actually getting feeds slightly faster than KO.
What a joke!
So,
but you're getting it fed to you faster in London than we get. Like, I can be watching the game at Canberra Stadium, sitting in Canberra, and you get it faster than me.
Yeah, but the link up's perfect. You know, you watch someone crash over for a try, you flick on the score updates, it's within seconds. So absolutely loving that. I wasn't liking not owning the Rabbitohs boys on Sunday morning, but some absolute junk there at the end of that game for some of the guys. So, but no, absolutely love it. Just going through now on the player stats on the Baller website as well, the base plus power, just love that. Seeing big shout out to Damien Cook, 93 base plus power in that first game.
93.
It's unsustainable, but that's a huge first game, round 1. 90 minutes at hooker against the Bulldogs side. That was excellent performance.
I love the base plus power stat over at baller.live. I find it really helpful for those sit v start decisions sometimes too, where you're seeing a guy with a tough matchup versus a guy who has like a great base plus power and an easier matchup, and you just push your favouritism in their way. And really looking forward to his Baller update that with 3-round averages, 5-round averages, all of it. Also, get onto the team builder over at baller.live. It is not just a pre-season tool. Keep your team up to date for accurate Baller projections. Hungry for more this week over at the Baller Team Builder. Up to an 8.3 rating out of 10, projected for a 1,316 versus SuperCoach's projected 1,103. I know which one I'd rather. And that's because over at Baller, their projections are just so much more thought and analytics goes into them than just, here's a guy, here's his price, that's his projection, like you get through the official app. There is genuine data and analytics going into what Baller are doing. So if you want to see how your team's looking and you want to get some projections for your sit v starts, head over to baller.live and check out the team builder. Fellas, let's get into our Baller blueprint topic for this week. And what we're going to look at is, how do you know who are the right players to buy, hold and sell after only one game? So for people who might be new to NRL SuperCoach, there are actually no price rises till after a player has played their third game, which means this week the prices are staying exactly the same. That can be good. It means you can sense opportunity. You can get in early on some guys that's going to give you more flexibility for next week. But overreacting to either good or bad performances from round 1 could see you make the wrong call and reduce your team flexibility and reduce your team quality as we head into round 3. Danny Boy, interested to hear from you. What's your overall consensus on what I've just said? Anything to add there when it comes to these round 2 decisions?
Well, I think if you're pretty well set up with the cheapies, I think that's the priority next week. You want to basically generate as much cash as possible. So you want to get those cheapies who are going to pretty much be guaranteed for a price ride next week. So, and when we're talking cheapies, you want to be kind of at least sub 300, if not the sub 250 guys, because obviously the round 1 score can drop out. So even if they had a big score in round 1. Round 3, they'll get that good price rise, but down round 4, if they have a bit of a lowly round 2, it's not going to be as big for the next job. So that's a bit of a tricky situation for mid-rangers. Yeah. They don't tend to generate as much cash for those first 2 rounds. So, but anyone under 250K is just going to keep churning out the cash as long as they're averaging fair. So I think they're the priority this week.
And Danny boy, Cody Walker, I think, is a bit of an example for you about one of those kind of mid-range guys who had a big score, but if that drops out of the rotation, not great for their cash rise. So you want to see it again in week 2.
Exactly. So they've got a tough matchup this week against the Roosters. If he goes 50 this week, say 50 next week against the Tigers, which are decent-ish scores, but they're not blowouts, he only ends up making 60 to 70K over the first couple rounds, and then his break even is then back to his average. So you can get a bit carried away on these first scores. It did look great for Cody. He was definitely dominating that Souths game. So I could see you take a flyer, but I'd also just hold off on Peasant, because if he comes back with a couple of 50 scores next couple of weeks, he'll be starting to generate that cash as well.
Fenno, what about for you, mate? There's generally, those 2 schools of thought. There's the people who want to get maximum flexibility coming into round 3, and there's the people who have tried out the kind of line of, you did all your research for your round 1 team, you put it all in, give those guys another week. Where do you sit on that line?
Yeah, I think it's obviously team dependent. We use that word a lot, but I missed a few of the those mid-range cheapies and some of those lower ones, like the Storm boys. Obviously, we want to see what their role is. And when I looked at the potential buyers I want for round 3, I'm looking at 6 or 7 players that I'm really high on getting into my team. And obviously, I can't facilitate 7 trades in round 3, so it's about working out which have got the best role, and which ones you believe, the ones you believe in the most. So for me, and we'll get to him shortly, but played 80 minutes. Injury last year was something that I sort of was worried about. I wanted to see how he would start the season, and the fact that he got that 80 minutes and looked outstanding. Those sort of people, the players that are locked into a great role, are ones that I'm happy to go early on. Some of those other cheapies that we still want to see what their role is going to look like, I'm happy to wait till round 3. But yeah, I'll be definitely looking at making a couple of moves this week, because I want to maximise that team value, like Danny Boy was saying. So yeah, I think it's a bit of a balance. But if you missed a lot of those sub 300k guys, I think it's advisable to go early and get a couple of them in to give you that flexibility next week.
Yeah, you're right, Freno, but I think it's probably not worthwhile going down from, say, maybe a mid-ranger who you backed into the start of the season, who has had a bit of a lowly game. Like, you don't want to just break up your team to get all these cheapies to maximise it. Something like a Daniel Atkinson across to Ethan Sanders, I like that. So, just a sideways swing for these cheapies that may have gone low to start with. And we kind of know that Sanders is guaranteed now. So I think something like that to make moves early on in anticipation for some carnage round 2.
Well, fellas, let's start off with the players you would look to buy. And I'm going to jump with that one so we can get to the man that Fenno was alluding to, who I think is very interesting. When I'm looking at players to buy after only 1 week worth of a sample size, I'm looking at guys who potentially had a role that was better than what I expected, and that role seems safe to continue. Fenno, who is your example of someone who fits that for you?
For me, it's Helium Lukey. I was a little bit bullish on him to start the season, given his injury history, what he's been through over the last few years. I had him in and out of my team builds throughout the pre-season. But decided to go a different option on the bench, which we'll get to shortly. Just watching that game, he was outstanding. His base and base power was electric. They looked to him close to the line. He scored. I think he scored in both trials, and he scored obviously in the first game as well. So he's a focal point of their attack when they're close to the try line there. And I wanted to see the role. Obviously it's only 1 week, but the 80 minutes is encouraging. Sam McIntyre was the back row that came off. And Helium Lukey played the full game. So he's one I'm really high on. He's one I'm willing to take a punt on next week. I love what I saw from him. He's obviously had he's been touted as an Origin player for several years. He's just been riddled with injury, but hopefully he gets an injury-free season and we can see him at his full potential.
Just going to add on to him, Fenno, because I am bringing Lukey into my team this week, most likely. He had a base plus power, just checked on baller.live, 68 points of base plus power in round one in that 80 minutes. So it's not just that he scored a great one-on-one try, it's that it looks like he's going to be a playable option who's going to make money even without that attack. So I really like it. Danny boy, who's the kind of guy for you that's someone that you would look to buy just based off 1 week sample size?
I think I might have mentioned him just before, didn't I?
Ethan Sanders?
Yeah, that was my man. So sorry, John, I'm trying to remember playing catch up on Tuesday morning over here. Ethan Sanders, he looked great, controlling that Raiders side. Raiders look very, very good. They didn't have the ball for 11 minutes in that first half there. They must have been absolutely, dog tired. And they've come away with a victory at 4 Pines Park for round one. And Sanders was a big contributor to that. I loved him slicing through, backing himself as well for that try. So he is definitely one. If you don't have him, bring him in. I think I would definitely switch him over for Atkinson at the moment, just watching the two games. Atkinson has Storm as well, so even if he does go well, I can't expect him to go 60, 70 plus. I think you've got to get on the quick cash of Sanders, and I think he's solidified his spot in that Canberra Raiders team.
What about the two boys, the two guys that you boys picked are both currently traded into my team? Started without both of them. And Danny boy, I have done that move you're suggesting of Atkinson across to Sanders. Some people may call it sideways. I think I might even call it potentially sideways depending on my mood. But at the moment, my mood is feeling that it's not sideways because I think he's going to make a lot more money and I feel more confident playing him with that goal kicking in a really good Raiders team. So I love it. I want to jump now to the kind of players we look to hold. And for me, when I'm looking at which players to hold from round one, but they're maybe on the chopping block for round three, it's these guys who are not necessarily happy with the score they got, but I am happy with the role that I saw in round one. And I think I want to see a little bit more before making a decision. Danny boy, who is the guy that for you is someone you're going to hold despite having a few concerns?
Yeah, the one for me, and we've had a lot of chat around this guy in the Discord as well. A lot of people are looking to downgrade him, even though he's not at a high price. It's Jermaine Hopgood. So he's 500K. He's not playing this week. So cash generation is going to be delayed if he was going to make any. But coming out with a 50-point score after getting sin-binned in an absolute flogging against Melbourne, it was very, very encouraging. I think he's got to own up. That bench looked unbelievable for him still. I'm not sure how many minutes with that sin-bin he would have played, but I would anticipate that's still 65 to 70 minutes. And then I guess the only reason you would probably look to sell him is if you were overly stacked in the front row forward. Because I don't think you want too many of those guys. We looked at it. You could potentially go down to a Paseka or something like that and free up 200K. If you were overloaded with the likes of Uta with Kamano, Trade Mooney, a fair few of these mid-rangers. But if you're running quite low at front row forward, I would definitely hold Hopgood, especially because you can play Trade Mooney or Arama Howe as your second front row forward this week. So just holding fire at the moment.
Fenno, what about you? Who's someone who's on your chopping block potentially for round three, but you want to give another week to this week?
Yeah, for me, it's Sammy Walker. The Roosters were very highly touted in the preseason. I watched that trial he played and he was exceptional and came straight into my team. The Roosters were diabolical on the weekend. Their completion rate was horrible. They gave away so many stupid penalties. Then the Warriors really suffocated them. So I want to believe what I saw in the trials and what I believe. I think Sam Walker's going to be the main guy. I think DCE is happy to take a back seat in that team. The 54 score is not the worst score. He could have had another try assist for Billy Smith. It wasn't given.
Great score.
So look, I'm happy to give him another week, but I'm running Nathan Cleary in my flex position and don't have Sil Fa'alongo. So if Walker doesn't perform for me in round two, he could potentially be on the chopping block for round three. But yeah, definitely want to give another week.
It's good that you got a plan in place, though, I think, as well. Like, it's not just going in blind. You know what your plan is with him if it doesn't work out after round two. Right, our last category is players who you're just really confident are sells. You don't need to give them a second chance. Their role wasn't what you expected, or there was an injury that came through that's going to impact their Supercoach output. Danny boy, who's a player that if you owned, you would look to sell even after 1 week?
Yeah, for me, it's Scotty Drinkwater. I just think at nearly 800K, rib cartilage injury, it's a horrible one to have because you just know they're never running at 100%. There's so many options at that fullback spot now, or even flex if you've got him in there. So yeah, just get rid of him straight away. He will definitely be Supercoach relevant later on. But that injury is just too much. I think you've got to get rid of him.
What about you, Fenno? Who's a guy that's gone for you if you own him?
For me, it's Jacob Laban. Again, he's another one. I was listening to all the chat in the preseason, and the talk was he was in for a massive season. Started obviously in the All-Stars game, looked really good in that game, but it was just like I think with like a Halasima coming off the bench, like he's too good to be playing 30 minutes a game, I believe. So yeah, look, I'm a little bit disappointed. I grabbed him. It was a bit of a panic move. I'd missed a couple of the early cheapies, so at his price, I wanted to take a flyer. And I did have plans in place. So what I did is I facilitated another couple of moves, and I've got about 150K in the bank. Now I can go up him up to Lukey. But yeah, it's just his role. Like, I don't think he'll play 80 minutes. I think Lacker's too good to be on the bench. Like, he came on, I think, in the first 5 minutes of his stint and scored a try from a bomb. So, yeah. And he looked like he did last year. So, and the other thing is, Nirakore is, I think, on the extended bench this week. Like, he'll play middle for the most part, but can also fill in on an edge. So, yeah, just a few concerns there for me. So I'm happy to get off him early and move him up to Helium Lukey this week.
Yeah, agree. I think he's one of the clear sells. Bye-bye, Jacob Laban. All right, let's get into our positional analysis now, fellas. We're going to start off at hooker. Danny boy, I just want to hear your thoughts. Harry Grant, you mentioned at the top of the show, has been named to play despite potential injury concerns. Melbourne Storm, I believe, are saying it was hamstring cramping. Dan, you were in the Ballers Only Discord. You kind of clipped up a bit of footage from the game saying that you think there might have been a little bit more to it and that there could be a potential lower leg injury. If there is a lower leg injury going on and he's playing this week, should we have any concerns about his running game, or do you think it's just play on for Harry?
No, not really. The mechanism was kind of, lateral ligament, which is pretty manageable and usually absolutely fine to play on. So I have no concerns over him playing. I listened to the Magic Sponge with our mate Brian as well, and he was saying similar things. I know he's got to be a little bit careful when he speaks about Melbourne Storm. Just they kick back at him a little bit with that, but he was definitely on the same page with that, and he should be absolutely fine. He looked amazing. If you don't have Harry Grant, I don't know what you're doing. I mean, that's probably the conundrum for a lot of super coaches. Some of the mid-range hookers went well, but they didn't explode. Whereas the potential in Harry Grant getting 90 and coming off early, and the likes of Brayley looking amazing with his running game this week. A bit of a conundrum. Do you have to go up to those guys?
Well, Fano, let's hear your thoughts on a couple of these mid-range guys. Just a little player comparison between Reed Marnie and Jake Simpkin, two of the mid-range guys that Dan's referring to. So Reed Marnie played 80 minutes and had 52 points in round one. Jake Simpkin, 59 points in 82 minutes in round one. Worth noting, though, with Jakey that Sesu Takiaho had a calf injury and Joey Walsh didn't play in the game. Would you be able to put either of those guys up as a sell, Feno, or is it another watch for this week before going to Harry?
I think it's another watch. I want to see. I think, definitely with Jake Simpkin, I think the potential was there for Joey Walsh to get on if Takiaho didn't get that injury. The Manly are quite high on him. I don't know whether he would have played hooker, but I myself actually watched that game and I thought Jakey was looking pretty tired towards the back end of that last 10 minutes of the game, so they could have done with some fresh legs. So I wouldn't be going early on either of them. But on the other side of it, I don't think you panic selling them. Like they're priced, they scored more than what they're priced at the moment. So I think, I'd be happy to watch another week. But yeah, like Danny Boy touched on, I'd be trying to get to Harry Grant. I'll work out a plan if I don't have Harry Grant to try and get him in as soon as possible, because he looked insane. And if his running game keeps going like it did last week, like he'll clearly be top 2 hooker with Blake Bailey, I think.
Danny Boy, Blake Bray, you mentioned you're running the double premium hooker strategy. How did you feel Monday morning Australian time when Blake Brayley came through for a couple of late assists? Late assist that got in some updates.
I either said it on I think I said it on the Discord as it happened live. I'm like, where's the Blake Brayley TA there? So he crabbed across about 20 metres, threw the ball behind another player to Trindle, who did some fabulous footwork to break the line, but he never got awarded that at the time. So I thought it was well-deserved. I mean, you're seeing these try assists now where it's just a catch and pass and you're getting it. So I think something where you've actually done a little bit of work is more deserved. And yeah, obviously being in my team, I'm probably a bit biased and thought, yeah, definitely good for my team, but he looked amazing otherwise. Like, he came close a couple of other times. He nearly broke the line several times as well, running through the middle. I really love Sharks forward pack. I think if they stay fit, he's just going to have a field day. And again, no hooker even named in the 6-man bench. So anyone who did start with him, I think well done. I wouldn't be looking to go up to him straight away. As Fenno said, give your mid-rangers another chance and then maybe looking at Harry or him as your premium front hooker to start with in that number 1 position.
Yeah, and I thought it was a fair try assist too. There was a lot of people annoyed about the late Monday morning update, but I don't care if an update comes through late if it's correct, and I thought it was a clear try assist. I imagine there's a bit of frustration out there. I'm sure it cost some people some head-to-heads. Actually, I know shout out baller listener Paps, who I know lost a head-to-head matchup in my main cash league. I mean, because of that update, but that's SuperCoach. That's what happens. I think it was the right decision. Fenno, our last play comparison here at hooker is between 2 of our cheaper hooker options. Benaya Ayelu, who had 48 points in 48 minutes before being replaced by Connor Watson. And then we had Kalani Going, who ended up in 8% of SuperCoach teams, who came off the bench, had a pretty minimal impact in his 32 minutes. What did you think of those guys as cheaper options in week 1?
Yeah, look, I'm personally not a fan of either. I can't see a world where Connor Watson's consistently coming on at the 60-minute mark for the Roosters. I think he's too good of a player to be coming on that late. Benny scored well, but I don't see his role being like that every week. And with Kalani Going, he screamed AE nightmare from the beginning. When I looked at that Panthers bench, I started with Brandon Smith as my second hooker, and I'm pretty happy that I've done that. I've avoided that, and I believe his role will be good when he's back into the team. So, look, I think if you got Benny, I think you sort of try and ride him out, and hopefully he continues with that role. But geez, if I had Kalani Going, I'd be trying to find through Jules, trying to find an option to maybe a Noah Martin or something like that if you've got the Jules that can move that around. But yeah, look, I think he's going to be an AE nightmare. I don't think he'll play many minutes unless there's a few injuries to the Panthers.
Yeah, I think another case you're hoping is he might just drop out for now and not be an AE nightmare, because they do have Liam Henry and Liam Martin on the horizon. So hopefully it could just be a blessing if he drops out of that extended squad. Otherwise, you are going to have to come up with a plan soon to get Kalani going, get him going out of the team. All right, let's move down to front row forward, fellas. And Payne Haas, look, the most owned front rower, the premium front rower in SuperCoach. Is he still a VC option, Danny Boy, in the first game of the round off the back of a lackluster 68, or is it put back in that frame of mind with PVL ball, and potentially are we back to just looking for these real upside guys if we're doing a VC?
I would like to think you want to look for upside, but Payne Haas, it's 1 game sample size this year, and that was probably his floor at 67. He wasn't necessarily offloading like he does. He obviously didn't get any attacking stats. I think he's certainly a VC option. As Fenno said, there's probably not many non-playing reserves this week, so you've probably got to go someone early for the VC loop, and he will definitely be my VC this week. I'm very, very confident on a bounce back from Big Payne this week.
Yeah, I'd say Payne and Reece Boy Walsh will be the 2 most popular VC options of the week, and for good reason. I do think, though, Dan, if you own Reece Walsh, would you take a flyer on Walshy over Payne?
Yeah, the way we saw things last week with the new set restarts, how many meters they're making through, obviously the points as well. And I wasn't a big fan of Parramatta coming into the season, a bit like Tubes. So I think they could get a touching up from the Broncos this week. And Reece Walsh, we know he's absolutely electric. And he's also, even though he didn't get much attacking in that Panthers game, they're still looking for him as that first receiver. He's still doing a bit of kicking. He will still be everywhere in the Broncos attack.
Yeah, agreed. All right, Feno, player comparison between two of our other premium front row forward options, Tino for Asua Malawi and Keon Kaloamatangi. Tino's 687k, Keon's 666, but they had pretty different fortunes in round one, didn't they, the two front rows?
Certainly did. Starting off with Keon, he looked exceptional. Like, I think that that last trial I watched him play, he made his way into my team. I think he was in my flex position at one stage, just because of how fit and how good he looked in that trial. I ended up moving things around and ended up taking him out, which I was a little bit disappointed at. But geez, he's the linchpin of that forward pack. He's their go forward. And I couldn't begrudge anyone that started with him. Well done to yous. With Tino, I like they spent a lot of the time behind the posts. Like the minutes may be a little bit concerning, 49 minutes. But I think that'll increase, and I would hope that they're not getting beat by 40 points every week. I didn't start with Tino. I'm not very high on the Titans again this year. I know they've got a new coach and they look good in the preseason, but I think they'll be down in the bottom four again. I didn't want to start with Tino, but I think you've got to at least have another look. They've got the Dolphins this week who leaked 40 points against the Rabbitohs, so we know Tino can score a try. So I'd be wanting to have another look at Tino. But out of those two, Keon looks to stand out to me, and I'd love to find a way to get him into my team at some stage soon.
Danny boy, you look deep in thought as Feno was discussing Tino. What are your thoughts on Tino and his lackluster round one performance?
Yeah, I think Josh Hannay's actually done the right thing, and by resting Tino, the game was absolutely done and dusted. Like, why does Tino need to burn himself out with extra minutes? They've also got this new forward middle rotation off the bench of the Titans. The likes of Cooper Bye, Curtis Morin. So I think Hannay's literally said, "Look, this game's done. Let's regroup. Let's have a look at this middle rotation. Let's have a look at some of these guys and how they perform. And we can give Tino a breather because he'll be back next week." So I think you picked Tino for a reason. 680k, yes, it is a high price, particularly when these fullbacks, center wings are going, what it looks like from round one are going to be, going off. Maybe you do want to go down to a mid-ranger at some stage, but I'm expecting a big bounce back from Tino this week against the Dolphins side. And to be honest, like if you watch that game, Tino came close to scoring a try there. So if he gets over the line, nobody's talking about taking out Tino.
I think it's really hard. I don't own. I think I would give him that one more week just because he's Tino and we have years' worth of data that says that Tino playing 50 minutes plus is a great SuperCoach player. But it would have those concerns. New coach could mean a new role, and it could mean minutes reduced this year. And that 4 middle bench, Danny Boy, that you referenced, that's also new for the Titans. I've never seen them go with 4 middle forwards in their main bench. So I would be watching very carefully and willing to move him on in round 3. I wouldn't begrudge anyone who decides to take a plunge this week if they think there's something better out there that gives them more cash and more flexibility in other positions. Danny Boy, what about Trey Mooney? 45% of teams. I just want to kind of cool it a little bit for people who might be expecting Trey Mooney to be a Payne Haas level player. I've got some kind of casual SuperCoach friends in my life who are talking about, is Trey Mooney a captaincy option? Is Trey Mooney an 80-point player? What do you have to say about Trey Mooney's role moving forward?
Look, I think you're happy if you've picked him up. I definitely wouldn't be sideways swinging him from another mid-ranger. He's scored a try, front row forward scoring tries, massive outliers, and what was he doing out so wide to get that try as well? It's unbelievable. So he's had a great first round, but I see a world where he probably goes back to that sort of 50, 60 point range. We said about the first score drops out after the first price rise as well. So I think it is a bit of smoke and mirrors on how much cash he will get to. But if you've got him, hold him, well done. He's definitely playable in your 17 and 18. He's no Payne Haas though.
Yeah, agreed. I think he's more likely to shake out as a 58 to 60 point average guy if he continues to get a 50-minute role, which makes him playable, but let's not go expecting that every week. Fenno, what about Taniela Paseka? Speaking of playable, he looks very playable in that 55-minute role that he had for the Sea Eagles last week, and also just had a great actual NRL game. How are you feeling about Paseka?
Yeah, he looked great. Again, I think he benefited a little bit from the Takiyaho injury. I think that got him a few extra minutes. But yeah, on field, NRL-wise, he looked fantastic. I didn't start with him. I went with Jesse Colquhoun over him. I got a little bit of regret there. But yeah, he's I think it's been talked about in the preseason, like Manly forward depth is not fantastic this year. We know Jake's one header injury away from retirement. And I think, Paseka wants to take on that leadership role in that forward pack this year. So he's a definite watch for me this week. If he can get 55 minutes plus and looking at that 60, 65 average, he'll be heavily in my consideration for next week. He looked fantastic.
Danny boy, with someone like Paseka, what's the benefit of spending up? You know, there are some cheaper front row forwards, and we're going to speak about one of them in a moment. What's the benefit to spending up to that kind of 320, 330K mark and getting Paseka versus getting a guy who's 250 sub?
Well, it depends who you're talking about in that scenario. Someone like a Rama Howe, who we're going to talk about, he's obviously
get into how now. Go for it.
Yeah. So look, he's played an 80-minute game. We know that Josh Patson is lurking. Paxton. So it's not guaranteed, but geez, Taniela Paseka is definitely guaranteed. Like if Jake Jabovich wanted to hold on to the alpha dog status, he's not doing himself any favors wearing that type of headgear around. So I think Paseka is going to be that big alpha, and geez, he looks strong. I really like him, and if I was going to make a trade this week, and I'm leaning to not, I'd probably look to go someone around that 500K mark down to Paseka. That frees up 200K. I think that's a great option. I probably, if you were saying like if you were downgrading to a cheap, I'd probably still go lower than Paseka, just because I think you don't necessarily need to play Paseka in your 17s. You can definitely play the likes of Arama Howe, Noah Martin, these sort of guys. So I look to use that extra cash to bump up a premium elsewhere.
Okay. Arama Howe, I thought he had a pretty good, not debut, but starting edge debut. It was his first ever time playing 80 minutes on starting edge in the NRL. Are you confident, Fenno, that he has the role, getting those 80 minutes, to go early and get him into your squad, or is the Josh Paxton thing, like Danny Boy mentioned, still a concern?
Not really a concern for me. I think I saw enough. Obviously, they got flogged on the weekend, but he was close to scoring 3 tries in that game. Like there was 2 in about 10 minutes in the first half where he was a fingertip away from grounding the ball, and there was one late in the second half where he was one of the only forwards chasing for the ball when a kick was put through. So as a new coach, Josh Hanna's got to love that sort of thing. So I'd be pretty safe. Like if you've got a mid-ranger that sort of didn't work out for you and you didn't start with Arama Howe, I'd be pretty confident to downgrade to him to free those funds up to make another move elsewhere.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I wonder if these guys we're going to speak about count as those kind of mid-rangers. Jesse Colquhoun and Tom Flegler, who we're going to compare here. Jesse had 44 points in 47 minutes on the weekend, and Tom Flegler 47 points in 43 minutes. I think for the owners, and they are well owned, I think that maybe owners were hoping for a little bit more, maybe a little bit more minutes, maybe a little bit more output within those minutes. Danny boy, do you think that either Jesse or Tom Flegler are sells this week, or would you give them another week if you're an owner?
I'd definitely give them another week. You don't really need to move them on. I don't know if you're playing them in your 17, 18 players, though, just with the minutes they're getting, and with the likes of someone like Arama Howe getting 80, and you can slot him at front row forward as well. So I don't think they're panic sells at all. But if you don't have some of those low 200 guys, definitely could be a sell next week to make some moves, because you will be looking to probably make all 3 trades next week to really clean up and solidify your side. So just hold firm at the moment.
All right, gents, let's get down to second row forward, where there is so much happening. Let's start off by comparing these 2 Melbourne Storm second rowers, Adavalu Lasardi and Joe Chan. Unbelievable performances in week 1. Adewale Lasardi had 88 in his 79 minutes. Joe Chan had 87 in 80 minutes. But there is a but coming. Sean Blorwatch. He has been named in the extended bench this week. He's also been named in the Queensland Cup team, which suggests that he's fit. There's been mixed reports about what he's even been gone for. I don't really want to speculate into his personal life, but there's been some speculation about some charges being laid. I've seen other people, and it was reported on Fox Sports just today that it was an ankle injury that he was dealing with and has come back from. So who knows what the reason is why he's been out. But I would not be able to buy either of these guys this week. I'm a non-owner of both. I just want to see what's happening with Blore. And I think for both owners and non-owners, it would just be nice to see Blore come into the team this week so we can actually get a good read on what's happening. Feno, what's your take on all that?
Yeah, I'm in agreement there, Jono. I 100% agree. Ideally, we'd like to see Blore come in as a late inclusion and figure out where he's going to fit in that back row and who's going to be affected. One thing I did note from Lasardi is I think he came off with about 9 or 10 minutes to go,
Yes.
and then there was a HIA and he went straight back on. So it looks like out of the two, Chan might be preferred as the 80-minute back rower, and he looked like he built up a pretty good relationship with Jerome Hughes early. But yeah, I'm definitely not going early on either of them. I want to see what plays out there with I've forgotten his name off the bench now, but and we've also got Trent Liera to come back in next week as well. So does that affect things as well? So definitely want to wait another week and see if Law comes in. But yeah, I'm not going earlier on either of them. I'm happy to wait till round 3.
Danny boy?
Yeah, I think you've got to wait. Like, regardless of what's happening off the field, like Sean Blore had a tremendous year last year. He seems to be solidified at that edge spot as well. So I think it's only a matter of time that he comes in. Trent Loiero is a massive Bellamy boy as well. He's going to get huge minutes. So there's just so much doubt around it. If you started with them and took a bit of a flyer on those guys, knowing there's a bit of a risk, I think it's turned out as good as it could be. Like, both of them going 80 plus is amazing. But going round 2, going early, not guaranteed a cash rise. You've got to hold on those two and look to go down to some of the other cheapies.
Let's get down to comparing another couple of back rows, this time at the very cheap end of the scale. Ryan Couchman, 235k, and Noah Martin at 250k. Ryan Couchman, as we like to call him at Baller, Rouchy. 70 points in 56 minutes. Dan, he used to be your boy. He's not anymore. You didn't have the guts to start with him. I did. So Rouchy is now my boy, Ryan Couchman. I kind of think that the Noah Martin thing, and Noah Martin, what a game, getting that huge score, 2 tries, playing 80 minutes. I believe on baller.live he's down to 66 points in base plus power. He's taken a little bit of the shine off Rouchy. I think if it wasn't for this Noah Martin performance, Rouchy was going to be much higher purchase this week. Noah Martin, though, he's the most brought-in player of the round. But we mentioned a but with Sean Blore. There's a but when it comes to Noah Martin. And Danny Boy, you mentioned at the top of the pod, we got Matt Timoko wearing jersey number 17, which could impact Simi Sasanga, who's playing centre, because it may potentially push him into the back row rotation. Feno, when it comes to Noah Martin, would this news of Matt Timoko, would it hold on you bringing him into your team this week, or are you still very confident in who he is and what his role is?
I'm pretty confident in his role. Like, he was a standout for Canberra on the weekend. Like your good self, Jono, I'm a fellow nation, live in the nation's capital here, and I heard very good things coming out of him in the preseason. I've got a couple of my brother's friends that play football, and they said that through the juniors, he was an exceptional talent, and boy, did he show that on the weekend. Obviously, they play Warriors on Friday night at 6 o'clock, so it's quite early, so we'll know it's the second game of the round, so we'll know if there is a late change and Timoko comes in, so you can potentially, if you're wanting to do other moves, maybe wait till that Warriors-Raiders game there, but I'm pretty confident in his role. He ran great lines, and the try that he scored off where I can't remember who it was, crabbed across field and he just ran straight through that line, was a classic back rowers try, and and he didn't look gassed at all while he was on the field. Obviously they went to extra time, and his base plus power was exceptional as well. So no, I'm pretty confident on him. With Ryan Couchman though, I really wanted to see Jacob Little named this week. There was talk that he was going to be named on the bench, returning from injury, because I wanted to see because I don't think Damien Cook will be an 80-minute player, and I want to see what will happen when Little comes on and if Damien Cook moves to the middle. So he's probably one I probably would wait till round 3. So out of those two, I think I prefer Noah Martin as a buy if you didn't start with him.
Danny boy, I tactically, just because I went after you a little bit there in that very long question, I think I went for about 2 minutes asking a question before I put it to one of you guys and said a lot of things. It was Matt-like style of hosting from me. But, Danny boy, I've got to give you a chance for your right to reply for Rouchy.
I feel like I was in the US Senate. Like, you basically just went at me and then just threw to Fenno. And I've been sitting here stewing, biding my time. You talk about guts to bring in Rouchy. I think you said yourself you only brought him in because he was the only one at that price that you could afford with the team remaining. Right?
Still brought him in.
And I think I was the only one who brought him in last year and played him in my 18 for that seven minutes of power before he did his ACL. So, look, there's good reason why I didn't bring him in. I loved what I saw of him. I could go early on him. I think his role as he's going to be the mop-up man as well. So if any injury goes in that forward pack, he is mopping up the minutes. And if a back rower goes down, he's going straight out there at the moment. Without Dylan Egan in that side, he is going to absolutely mop up any minutes there is. And at bottom price, I don't think you can go wrong. Just from last year being burnt with his ACL injury, I can't bring myself to bring him in round 2 and then he goes down. So easy to wait. He is my number 1 pick to bring in for myself, who already has Noah Martin, for the round 3 purchase. So I'd be holding fire.
All right, I want to get to Cooper Bye, who was a little bit disappointing in his first week. Again, I think everyone who's ever watched him play thinks he's going to be an awesome NRL player, but he only got 28 minutes on the weekend. He's been sold by 3.4%. Dan, I'm going to throw to you for this one because you spoke about Dan Atkinson and how it's not sideways to go across to Ethan Sanders. I'm interested if you think the same thing about Cooper Bye and going across to either a Rouchy or a Noah Martin. Do you think he's Cooper Bye or Cooper hold?
Not your best there, Jono, but look, I had the guts to bring in Cooper Bye this for round 1, and I will have the guts to trade him as soon as possible. I love him he looks so good, but you can't be running out 20, 25 minutes when there is just this plethora of other cheapy options. So if you don't have someone like Noah Martin, I see you could go straight to Noah Martin this week from Cooper Bye if that's your only fire. I would be waiting. I'm in the position where I've got Cooper Bye and he's the same price as Rouchy. I'm going to wait, but that is definitely my locked-in trade for round 3.
All right, I want to get to a couple of the more expensive back rowers. Cam Murray, Fenno, you said Keon Kalamatangi was the linchpin of the South forward pack. I'd maybe push back and say, what about Cam Murray? I thought he was so impressive in the game on the weekend. Every time he was on the field, we were rolling forward, quickest play the ball in the NRL. And Dan, I know you put into our WhatsApp group, the Baller Contributors WhatsApp group, you mentioned that Cam Murray's just come off and now they're making a comeback. No surprise because the momentum immediately shifted. Fenno, what do you make of Cam Murray's performance? Is he on the watch list for you coming into round 3? Sorry, can I just rephrase? Not for this week, sorry, but he's on your watch list for round 3.
Yeah. Not for round 2, but yeah, definitely on the watch list for round 3. And you're right, that play the ball speed that he's got makes such a world of difference when they're going forward. Yeah, look, I was just worried about how many Rabbitohs I started with the round 4 bye on the horizon, so that's why I didn't start with him. I had Fafita, Brendan Smith, Cody Walker, and before I got rid of Latrell, I had Latrell as well. So it was just about the amount of South Sydney players I had in my team, so I couldn't quite fit him in. But, if he keeps playing the way he is, he's definitely an early trading option for me because, South need him on the field, and I think I think his minutes were close to 70 minutes on the weekend, and I would expect that to continue because he's such a focal point for them in the go forward and they quick play the ball. So, yeah, massive watch on him.
Danny boy, just want to quickly hear your thoughts on Dylan Lucas. Is he a bit of a forgotten man with his big base plus power score on the weekend because we're all focused on these cheapies instead?
Oh, no, he's a great option. Like, I think... 70 plus in base plus power. You know he's guaranteed for 80 minutes. You know they look to him in attack as well. And he didn't get any attack on that first game. So a bit like Kale Iro, they're going to have some points in them. the Knights and it's spread around a little bit, but he's going to jag some attack. And they've got a decent draw to start the year. So if you started with him, well done. It's hard to bring in someone at 700,000 though, with all these cheapies on fire. So, I mean, what would you do, Jono? You wouldn't look to bring him in at all? I think it's just well done if you've got him, and he's a very, very secure second row forward.
All right, fellas, that brings us down now to halfback, and I think we've already spoken a fair bit at length about Dan Atkinson, so I don't really want to get too much more into him. I'm selling him this week. I know Danny Boy's putting him forward as a sell as well. I don't think it's risk-free. You might get out there and you might do it as well, but then you find yourself with him getting a score of 90 this week, and it might be a bad decision, but I feel comfortable with it. I want to get into a couple of our more premium halfback options. It's Nicho Hynes and Nathan Cleary, who had different levels of scoring on the weekend. Nicho Hynes had a great game, picked his runs really well. The Sharkies look fluid. They got a big game against each other this week. And Nathan Cleary, who started off accumulating points, but second half, just happy to steer the ship in that game against the Broncos. Danny Boy, when it comes to those two premium options, how are you feeling?
I mean, I'd like both of them in my side ASAP. From what I saw against Cleary, with Cleary in that first half, he was just accumulating so easy. We know he's got such a huge ceiling. This will be a big test this week against the Sharks. I'm hoping they aim up at Panthers this week and give them a really good run. At the same time, it's a really big test for Nicho Hynes coming up against the Panthers. Both are great options. I think end game, both of them, you want as your halfback 1 and halfback 2, and playing them both week in, week out. They both look good, and I think I'm happy if I own either, and I wouldn't be looking to sell either of them. Even if they get a 60 to 70 score and they're going to drop a bit of cash, I think you've just locked them in, particularly Cleary until Origin.
All right, let's get down to 5'8" now, and we're going to start off with Jonah Pezzett, who did not have a very strong NRL game in the weekend in a very well-beaten Eels side. Fenno, I'm interested to hear from you about Jonah Pezzett. I don't know if you're an owner or not, but if you are an owner, what are you thinking of doing when it comes to Jonah Pezzett?
I'm certainly worried. He's my 5'8" too. I started with Cody Walker. So I've obviously got that round 4 on the horizon where ideally I don't want to have to play Jonah Pezzett. So I'm looking at a potential couple of options of an out if he continues to score the way he is. I thought the first 10 minutes of the game he looked really good. He had his hand on the ball a few times, but then he just fell away and fell out of the game. And when Storm got a roll on, he just couldn't get into the game at all. So I think that was the concern in the preseason, was that it's going to be Mitch's Moses' team, and how much ball is he going to get in good field position. So I think if you've started like myself with Cody Walker and Jonah Pezzett, you probably want to find a fullback plan in round 4 if he's getting low 20s. So yeah, have a backup plan. I think Jackson Purdue is possibly one. If you've got him in the centre wing, he's someone you could potentially move up if it doesn't work out with Jonah Pezzett. But yeah, certainly some concerns there. And if you started without him, I think that's you might be one step ahead already.
All right, Danny Boy, you are also a Jonah Pezzett owner. I know originally you were thinking about trading him up to Cody Walker. You've cooled on that a little bit now that we've kind of had a bit more distance from the round.
Yeah, like he's only there in teams now for cash generation, and if he has another lowly score this week, I'm very happy to move him on. So they've got the Titans in round 3. So if he can jag a 40 to 50 points this week, I'm very happy to hold, because he could go well against them. Fenno alluded to the point that if you're running Cody Walker, Pezzett plays the Panthers in round 4. Like, that is just, you just can't do that to yourself. So I'd be very comfortable to move him on if he goes a lowly score this week, because he's just, the cash generation is not there early on, and he's not in anyone's endgame team. I think, it's a pretty easy move on. Just probably give him a week. It's a big test against the Broncos. But if he can smash out the decent base plus power and maybe jag out an attacking stack, I'd be happy to hold him as that second 5'8".
We've mentioned Cody Walker a fair few times on the pod already. I want to compare Cody Walker with Braden Trindle, because if Jonah Pezzett does have another poor week and you're looking to move up to a Cody Walker, who obviously had a great 104 points in round 1, was controlling everything for the Bunnies, I'm wondering if maybe Braden Trindle deserves a bit of a discussion as well. He was the top scorer in Supercoach in round one of 132 points. Him and Nico look to be clicking really nicely. Danny boy, as a Sharks fan, what are you thinking about with Braden Trindle?
How many actual runs do you reckon Braden Trindle had on the weekend, Jono?
Do you know the answer to this? Because I have no idea.
I do. He had 4 runs. So
is that all?
Yeah. His base plus power
felt like heaps more. That's so interesting.
His base plus power, even though he broke the line a couple of times, like he base plus power was 14. So his attacking stats on the weekend, you look at the number 130 and go, wow, that's a good score. Maybe he can get a few. You cannot score that much attack week in, week out. And we've seen with Trindle, he has 20-point gains in him. He goes up against Panthers this week. I don't expect that many attacking stats against the Panthers. The round one score of 130 drops out after the third round price rise. And he's a mid-ranger. So it's not like he's bottom price this year. I would not be going anywhere near Braden Trindle after one game.
I love that. And also, shout out Baller.live. I heard you thumping away, getting ready to. You were looking that up on Baller.live as I was asking the question and got those answers. That's great from you, Danny boy. Well done. Fenno, Jackson Purdue, who you mentioned as maybe a centre wing you could flip up. I'm a Jackson Purdue owner. It's funny because I was for me, he's a little bit on notice after a 42 in round one. He's definitely not a sell this week. I think he had glimmers of showing us the kind of player he is. But yeah, he's on notice for me. You're still pretty high on Jackson Purdue?
Yeah, I think he looked really ideally the Cowboys put in a much better performance than what they did in Vegas. But when he went to fullback, when Scott Drinkwater went off, I think he sort of finds some of his his performance again. So I thought, obviously he's playing in the centres. Ideally, we don't want him playing 5'8" because I don't think that works out for him in Supercoach. But I don't expect Cowboys to be as bad as they were in Vegas. They're clearly not a defensive team, but they are a team that can score points, and I expect him to be a beneficiary of that. So I definitely wouldn't be getting off early. And they're playing the Tigers this week, so let's see how he goes next week. But he's a big part of their future and a big part of their plan. So I didn't start with him. I did have him in my early season builds a lot, but didn't start with him. But yeah, look, if he comes out with a big score this week, he could certainly be in my considerations come round 3 or round 4.
All right, let's get down now to the centres and wingers. And I want to start off with the big 5 cheapy centre wings. The 4 who played all went really, really well and did a great job for owners, whether you just wanted them for cash gen, whether you had to play them. And we have the 5th, the biggest and best of them all, the Mac Truck Makasini, jumping in for his first game of the year now that the Tigers are no longer on the bye. I'm interested to hear from both of you in a moment. I'll start off with you, Danny boy. With these 5 cheapies, I'm going to read you their matchups for the round, and there's a couple of tasty ones. Which ones would you feel the most comfortable playing? Maybe you can give us 2 each that you would feel the best about playing coming into round 2. So we've got Makasini, who I mentioned. He's up against the Cowboys. We've got Sedu 2 on the wing for the Dragons coming up against the Melbourne Storm. Heamasi coming up on the wing against the Dolphins. Tom Chester playing in the centres coming up against the Tigers. And Moses Leo coming up against the Dragons. And he's actually been purchased by 5.3% of all super coaches this week. Danny boy, of that list, 5 pretty good, rock-solid, cheapy centre wings, but which ones do you feel the best about playing?
Yeah, well, I've got that conundrum this week. I've got to choose 2 of them, 2 out of the 5. I think the only one that I'm guaranteed not to play would probably be Setu 2 against the Storm. I think...
What's your reasoning?
I just think Storm are looking good. I think Dragons are also
purely match up,
and Dragons are liking a grind at the moment. I remember last year, I think they beat the Storm early season. It might have been a wet one out at Jubilee Stadium there. So, look, I think it's going to be a bit of a grind, less attacking opportunities. But geez, the 4 other ones, Heamasi against the Dolphins, Makasini against the Cowboys. Chester had great base plus power of 62 without any attack last week, and they're coming up against the Tigers. Like, it is a little bit of potluck. For me, my top 2 at the moment, I'm going on Makasini for the flair, and I'm going on Tom Chester. So I'm hoping for a big Saturday afternoon, Leichhardt Oval, plenty of points.
So I'm assuming your thought process is you like the base plus Para Chester, plus he could jag a try against a weak defensive team, and Makasini
just because it's Makasini. What do you reckon? Do you think he's going to play right centre? I'd assume he would.
Yeah, I would assume he would too with how their lineup's gone.
Yeah, so look, they've got some attacking weapons on the left there, but he could be that dominant right side go-to attacker. Adam Dewey on his inside as well. I don't mind that. Anyone who has Adam Dewey, I'd be doubling up with the Dewey Makasini stack. But yeah, I'm just really excited to watch him play. Not so much that it's on at 4 a.m. in the morning over here, but but yeah, looking forward to seeing how he goes. And I'm just jumping straight in.
Yeah, I'm just running through them because Stafford Toa usually plays on the right, but in all the trials, Makasini was on the left. Whether he's playing centre or winger, he was specifically on the left. So it'd be interesting to see. He might just be a left edge player, or will they shuffle him over to fill in the guy who he's replacing in the centres? That is worth noting. In the centres, not on the wing, maybe does reduce his try scoring potential. Fenno, who are the two that you would look to play in your team?
I'm in 100% agreement with Danny Boy on Makasini, and it's purely just a vibes thing for me. Watching him score that try in the trial where he trampled over Dylan Edwards. I've seen some chat saying that he's not playing wing and it'll decrease his try scoring potential, but I think him playing, he's a natural centre, so him playing in his natural position, being on debut for the Tigers, I think that'll help him a bit and calm his nerves a little bit. So I'm quite confident in playing him. For me, for the second one, it's a 50-50 call on Moses Leo or Heamasi, because the Dolphins were so leaky, and I did like how Kinney and him combined. I'm leaning towards playing Moses Leo, and there's a podcast I watched just before I actually put him into my SuperCoach team with Cam Munster was interviewed and was asked to see who he think would be the big breakout star for the Storm this year, and he said Moses Leo. The way he trained through the preseason, he expects him to play a lot of first grade this year, which put a lot of confidence in me picking him. And I like what I saw in round one. He had a couple of line breaks. He looked electric. So yeah, I'm probably leaning towards Moses Leo as an upside play. I'm actually a Dragons fan, and I'll actually be going to this game in Wollongong on Saturday. So if he crashes over for a couple of tries, it'll ease some of my pain as a Dragons fan if I play him this week.
I like that theory in SuperCoach. I don't mind it. All right, I want to get on to some of the kind of more premium players. And one who let people down was Big Bad Brian To'o, who I think it was a 38, I believe, in round one. A lot of people were expecting big things from Brian. Unfortunately, when the team came out before kickoff, he was lining up on the right wing, which historically he does not score as well as the left. Panthers generally do like to push clear out to the left and really stack that left-hand side. Isaac Tungo was named on the extended bench. There's a chance he comes back into the team and shuffles things around again. But, Fenno, I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Is it premature to sell Brian To'o after one poor game, knowing the history that he has as both an NRL player and a SuperCoach player?
For the most part, I think, yes, it's premature. But if you didn't start all 5 cheapies, I think there's a world where you can downgrade him, especially if he's going to continue playing right wing. You could pick up one of the cheapies if you miss them. Like if you didn't start with the Moses Leo or a Setu 2 or one of those type. I think it is, if you've got another 1 or 2 premium centres in your side, and that's a move I would definitely consider. Tago's a big watch for me. Like I think I read that Ivan Cleary said he was underdone in the preseason, which is why he wasn't picked last week. So if he comes in and Brian To'o moves back to the left wing, there's not a world I would be selling him. Panthers, while Brisbane were absolutely woeful last week, I didn't think Panthers were actually that much better. I thought they were in second gear through half that game, and when they click, and if he's playing left wing, he's going to be a big beneficiary of that. So I definitely wouldn't be going early unless it's a move where you want to downgrade to a 5th centre wing cheapie to use those funds to make another move where you want to fix your team up.
All right, let's get into 2 of the big dogs. I want to hear about some vice-captaincy and captaincy options with these centre wings. Latrell Mitchell coming up against the Roosters on the Friday night game. I usually don't like putting the VC on a centre or a winger, just because they often don't have as big of a ceiling as these guys who get their hands on the ball plenty. But there's something about Latrell getting a lazy 113, not doing too much, and still getting such a big score. I reckon he's going to be fired up against the Roosters. They're going to definitely try and get Alex Johnson this try-scoring record against the Roosters on Friday night. He only needs 2, and how fitting would it be to be against the Roosters in a famous win? Dan, am I crazy to consider Trell Mitt as my VC this week?
I don't mind it. I think, as you said, like he can go large, but being at centre, it's a little bit harder to go onto that 150 plus. I mean, they did score 40 points against the Dolphins on the weekend, and he's cracked 100, but he got a couple of lucky try, at least one lucky try in there. That also counted for a line break, which in the old system wouldn't have counted for a line break. But look, I think there's much worse options for VC, and I think that's it. If the PVL style ball continues on, he could definitely be a beneficiary. So yeah, he will be pod. Tough game though. Roosters 8 p.m. Friday night, big rivalry. I'm not sure I see a huge amount of points in that game.
Interesting. I think the other reason that it's a little bit tricky is that if you put the VC Latrell, which a lot of people would look at doing, that is going to rule you out as getting Herbie Farnworth as a captain, unless you have one of them in the flex. So Herbie Farnworth, who's 39% owned, had 75 with a try in round 1. He comes up against the Titans this week. The overs-unders of that game, I believe, is set at 55 points. It's expected to be a really high-scoring game. And Herbie Farnworth has a baller projection of 94 points. So that's the other thing you got to consider if you're going to put that VC on Trell. That rules out Herbie unless you have one of them in the flex, and I don't think I want to rule out Herbie. Fenno, what do you think of it?
Why does it rule out? Can you explain that?
What have I stuffed up here? Oh, no, it doesn't rule it. No, I could move Herbie to the bench. I've had a brain fart.
Wait, there's 4 centre wing spots. Why can't they both be on the field?
No, I've just stuffed up there.
Okay.
As soon as you made that face, I was like, I've just completely got this wrong.
Sure.
Let's just forget everything I just said about maybe it ruling out Latrell Mitchell and me stuffing up. But Dan, when you made that face, I went, oh no, I've stuffed up here. You're right. It doesn't stop you from doing both. What do we think of Herbie Farnworth? Forget all that about ruling out Latrell. Fenno, what do you think of Herbie Farnworth just as a captaincy option this week?
Yeah, I'm with Danny Boy there. I was a little bit perplexed as where you were going with that, Jono. But
put my hand up, stuffed up.
Look, he's currently got the orange armband for me at the moment. I love the matchup for him. He obviously fell over for a try that was very controversial last week, but coming up against that Titan side, if the weather's fine for on Sunday for that game, then and if Reece Walsh doesn't pop off for me, he'll be 100% my captain this week. I'm very confident on him and think he can score at least a couple of tries this week.
Yeah, absolutely a fantastic option. I think he's going to be the most captain player of the round with good reason. You know what I think I was thinking there is I reckon I was thinking of like when I've owned Cleary and Hines as my 2 halfbacks and just like had in my head, there's only one of them that I can do. And I think just for some reason in my head that translated to centre wing, which it absolutely doesn't. All right, final position analysis, fullback. Reece Walsh, we've spoken about plenty. Don't sell after a poor round 1. And if you own him, put the VC on him. I want to get into Keanu Kinney and Sua Fa'alongo, 2 similar price players. Sua Fa'alongo, who absolutely went off. Keanu Kinney, who I think a lot of people are feeling a bit disappointed in after a 59 in round 1. Danny Boy, how are you feeling about Kinney and Fa'alongo?
I'm very much looking forward to Kinney this week. I thought he tried so hard in that Sharks game, even though they were under the pump, they couldn't get any go forward going. Kinney was trying his best, and he still comes out with a try assist and a decent score. I think that's just because the nostalgia of looking at Tommy Turbo on a Sunday afternoon at Four Pines Park, like, geez, yeah, I'd love Tommy Turbo in the side when he's doing that sort of stuff. But Kinney is going to get some decent numbers. He's going to make some cash. And then I think the way it's looking this year, you're probably looking at fullback flipping around for these great runs that some of these guys are going to go on. So I think Kinney to start the year, hold him 5 or 6 rounds, see how he's going. I think he's going to earn 150K at least. And then you can start to look at some hot run sort of formulas later on.
What about Fenno? Danny Boy mentioned Tommy Turbo. We also had Kalen Ponga, who looked fantastic. They're playing each other this week. What are your initial thoughts on Tommy Turbo and Kalen Ponga coming into this year?
Both look fantastic. Both on my definitely on my watch radar. As I touched on earlier in the pod, I had Turbo in my team right up until I had Reece Walsh Romo on Friday night, which stung a little bit. The big thing for me is he looked fit. And there was one player I watched where there was a kick put through and he was running at full pace, and I haven't seen that for quite a while for Tommy Turbo, so that was very encouraging for me. I think the captaincy is going to add another factor to his game this year. I think it's going to benefit him a lot. He's going to have to see himself as a leader with no Cherry Evans there, so I think there's going to be times where if the attack is a bit stagnant, nothing's going, he's just going to want his hands on the ball and try and go a bit of hero ball. So he's definitely on my watch. And again, with Callum Ponga, I think there's a bit of with the Vegas games in the rearview mirror, people are forgetting how good he looked against the Cowboys. And another one that looked really fit. And he was playing both sides of the field. So I definitely had FOMO from not owning those two. And I also don't own Cyril Farlongo. So I've got headaches everywhere. Obviously, you can't fit 7 fullbacks in your team. So I think, like Danny Boy said, there's going to be a bit of that fullback roulette and targeting those runs of games where those fullbacks have easy opposition. I think that's going to be a great play this year.
All right, final segment of the show. Let's get down for the pod of the week. This is where we look at the guys who are under 10% owned, who we think could be huge for your team coming into this round and this year in general. Fenno, let's start off with your pod of the week.
My pod of the week is Tolotau Kula for the Manly Seagulls. We were just talking about his fullback there, Tommy Turbo. I think outside of Turbo, he's their focal point in attack, and I think he's just, in the last 2 years, he's just come on leaps and bounds. He's when the game was on the line, when they were down 10 points and they needed a bit of a Hail Mary, they threw it out to his side of the field, and he just showed what he could do. He palmed off 3 guys, made a massive line break. To me, it felt like he was scoring in nearly every single game last year. I felt like his tries were substantially up last year. So yeah, at I think 1.8% ownership I saw when I looked on the app earlier today. He's obviously a bit higher in price, and if you haven't got all the 5 cheapies, but if you started off with like a Brian Toto or another high centre wing that didn't work in the first 2 rounds, and if Cooler keeps this up and bangs out another big score this week, he's definitely someone I could get around getting in as a pod. He looked fantastic.
Yeah, and I'd definitely be getting over to baller.live to check out his base plus power, because it was really strong in round 1. If he puts that up again, he could go to the moon this year, Cooler. My pod of the week is Adam Dewey, who I think is just only so lowly owned. He's in 2.3% of teams. It's purely because of the Tigers having the bye in week 1. I think if you had played round 1, that would be well up and over 10%. I just find him a very interesting player. Those who have him as halfback 1 and played Sanders on the weekend, massively rewarded. Couldn't have worked out better for those people. Well done. But I'm also thinking of those who have him as halfback 2 and sat him in week 1. He's got to be on early notice, and you've got to be keeping an eye on him with Sanders' performance. If Adam Dewey comes out this week and has a subpar score and a subpar game, you might be looking at chopping him early for Ethan Sanders. So I just find him a very interesting player. I think he's going to be really good. I've talked him up a lot on the Baller content preseason. I think he's going to be a fantastic own, but I think he's going to be an interesting watch for this week. Danny Boy, who have you got for pod of the week?
Yeah, I'm backing Katoni Staggs for a big bounce back. He scored in the 30s on the weekend, despite base plus power of 42. Broncos didn't score a point. Thursday night, Eels, I think he's ready to explode. I think with these new sort of try assist things, and he obviously holds the ball a lot near the line, I think he's going to bounce back. He is expensive, 630K. It's a hard one to bring in straight away round 2 when you think he might bleed cash with a lowly score this week. But certainly one to watch. I think him and Taylor May are probably the 2 centres on watch for me this week.
Beautiful. Well, thanks, fellas. That pretty much brings us out to a close for our Round 2 Teamless Tuesday show. Massive thank you to both. I think you two carried me a little bit through this episode. I had long-winded questions. I was pot-shotting Dan, then not giving him a chance to reply. There was the whole Latrell Mitchell and Herbie Farnworth VC captaincy debacle, but you two have done a great job of pulling me through and keeping me honest. Fenno, thank you so much for joining us today, mate, and for jumping on for your pod debut for 2026. Looking forward to having you on soon again.
Pleasure to be here, Jono and Danny Boy. Good luck to both of you this week. I'm a couple of 100 points behind you both, so hoping a Reece Walsh 150 as VC on Friday night gets me back into contention again.
Fenno, I like you, but I hope that doesn't happen. I'm cheering on another Reece Walsh in the 30s game, please. Just a reminder as well, Sunday Snapper will be back this week. It'll be myself and Tubes back to review round 2 games, sourcing our rage trades and ready to explode players through the Ballers Only Discord. So if you want to be a part of that, get a shout out in the pod, jump in there. And as always, give us those follows on the socials, join the Discord, and head on over to baller.live. Danny boy, you've been fantastic. Your form in 2026 has been great. And take us home when you're ready, mate.
You beauty!